next guest this morning has led a most extraordinary life. Growing up in County Limerick, Marie O'Riordan struggled at school, eventually failing English in her Leaving Cert. But despite this setback, she went on to forge a media and business career that this week led her to the set of Oprah Winfrey's TV show in the US. Now, in her spare time, she founded her own charity, Planeteers Philanthropy, which recently won awards for its work using iPhones as education aids in parts of Africa. Marie, you're very welcome to Newstalk Breakfast.
Thank you kindly, gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to be here and great to be back in Ireland and in the Newstalk studios.
Good. Well, nice to have you here. Now, you can join the conversation, of course, by calling us on 1890 453 106. You can text us on 531 tweet us at breakfastnt, or you can email us on breakfast@newstalk.ie. Now, Marie, I obviously want to ask you about Oprah or Oprah Winfrey. I'm not quite sure which it is.
Sure.
But let's start at the beginning.
Yes.
Your child, were you always ambitious? Were you always a dreamer?
Yeah, I felt very misunderstood as a child. I felt that I had these crazy ideas, really, and I felt that people thought I was a bit like, where did we get this alien from? I remember coming home from school, maybe 5 years of age, and saying to my mother, I want to be an astronaut, or the whole, as a lot of kids, might want to be, an explorer, or I actually remember one day coming back from school and saying, I want to be the likes of Superman, which was, I guess, when I look back now, was a little bit unusual maybe for a 5-year-old in Croker, County Limerick.
Just a little.
But I guess the great support I had from my family was that even though I found school exceptionally difficult, that it was, great girl, or you can be whatever you want to be. So I was encouraged to have the dream, because I guess there was a concern that, I wasn't doing that well in school and it might be difficult going forward. So I was given hope, I guess, from at home. Okay, now when I was a kid, I had a chart of I think it was the 1978 World Cup and how it was progressing. But you were a bit different. You had a wall of achievement. I did. I had, I called it the purple room, the lilac room. I had a room at the end of the house. I'm the eldest of 4 children. And so there were 6 of us. It was a busy house, 6 of us in the house. But my bedroom, and I started collecting. You remember the Marshall Cavendish editions? The likes of people out there in your audience who will remember maybe Quest, they'd be in the local newsagents, and Tree of Knowledge. But they would have a poster every week, and I would collect all these achievement posters and I put them on my wall. So I would have had gold medal winners, I would have had Olympians, I would have had, the Martin Luther Kings of the world, the JFKs on my wall. And then one of my cousins in America, he worked in NASA, so he used to post me these massive posters of the NASA space shuttles signed by the astronauts. So in the morning when I woke up, I was looking at this wall, and when I went to bed at night, I'd be dreaming about this wall. And I look back now, it's interesting the patterns that you see when you were a kid, because I didn't really think much of it at the time, but I look back and it was like I was focused on that every morning and evening at home.
And your pals at the time, because I presume they were into pop music and fashion and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Did they think it was unusual, or did they just say?
Oh yeah, I can be open about it. I was bullied through national school and secondary school for being different. I felt very isolated. I didn't have a lot of friends. I more had cousins who were my best friends. So it was like, who's your one? And that was difficult. That was difficult growing up because I was coming at things from a different angle or a different perspective, and I felt at the time as well, I don't know, maybe it's eldest child syndrome or whatever that is, but I felt very responsible, and I used to hang around people who were older than me when I was younger, and my parents were thought that was a bit weird, but I felt comfortable with adults more than people my own age. Okay, now I mentioned that the hiccup you had in the Leaving Cert. Yes.
How much of a setback was that for you at the time?
It was devastating. Now. This time of year, of course, there's people doing the mocks around the country. And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the exact results, guys, but I'd say I'd hazard a guess that I probably failed everything in the Leaving Cert mocks. So it was like, oh boy, what's going to face me here?
Yeah, how did that feel like, though?
It was like, I had my passion. I knew I wanted to do communications, but at the end of the day, I knew that I wasn't university material, to be honest with you. I knew I wasn't going to get enough points, but I did my best. I ended up, actually, I did.
Frankly speaking, you're obviously incredibly mature to be that kind of sort of measured about it and sort of clear-minded about it.
I was facing facts. I mean, the one thing, I can be as positive as you like, and I'm known for my positivity, but I'll be honest with you, I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, jet-lagged, and I was like, I'm hurting here. However, the greater goal and my commitment is to be here on time and fresh and as professional as I can be. So you work through it. And, you know, there's a great quote that I came up with myself, if I do say so, a couple of years ago, and it was, you know, when you step and you walk through your fears, it's like you're stepping into your destiny. So I was talking about facing the fear and doing it anyway, but when it came to the Leaving Cert, I actually did all past subjects instead of English. English I did higher level. I took a chance on the honours English, and I actually failed it in the Leaving Cert. So I had 6 pass honours, which was nothing in points, and I'd have failed English, so it was a disaster.
Okay, so where did you go from there?
I was given a chance actually in a private college in Limerick. The CEO actually worked in media, and he saw the experience I built up over the years, and he said, right, we'll accept you on condition that you repeat honours English and you do the best you can. And I repeated honours English while I was in college that year when I got my certificate in journalism and radio, and I passed honours English in the following year in the Leaving Cert.
Okay. Now, local radio then beckoned, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, started off doing a lot of media stuff as a kid, dabbling in, radio, a bit of television, then won a short movie award when I was about 15. And then out of college, literally, I remember because I finished college, got the certificate in journalism and radio on a Friday evening. I started working in the local radio station the following Monday, and did that for many years, and had opportunities to work around the place. I mean, I remember doing Irish news correspondent for a station in New York, which was a great experience. There was some opportunities then in the States with the likes of CNN. There was a place in Stockholm. In my 20s, I was a freelance English editor at the European Central Bank in Frankfurt, and so there were opportunities. It was building, and I felt there was more opportunity there for me to do a bit more, but I was holding myself back. I was terrified.
Okay, you're listening to Newstalk Breakfast. Our guest this morning is Maria Reardon, Irish businesswoman and philanthropist. Just so you went from local radio.
Yeah.
Tell us how you went from local radio to interviewing Mother Teresa and being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. Okay,
to bring it back, when I was 4, there was something that really struck a chord in my life, and my little cousin Deirdre and I, we were born 2 weeks apart, and Deirdre got leukemia and she died at 4, and she, tens of thousands of Irish people every year, no matter what people think about this, but they go to the likes of Lourdes or Medjugorje or a place like that. So Deirdre and her family went over to Lourdes in France looking for a miracle. Anyway, little Deirdre was taken from us, and it has a massive effect on me. It was like my world had ended at 4. My best friend had died. We were like twins. So it's interesting now that it's almost like my family live her life through me now. But 2 years later, her baby brother, there was a tragic little accident involving a teddy bear. I won't go into detail. And he died. I mean, he choked to death. He died. So there was 2 babies, if you tell me, in my family within 2 years that we lost. And what do you do after that? So I remember saying to my mum, look, I just love to help. I just love to help people. And I started saying to her, that place in Lourdes where Deirdre went to, she said, I'd love to do something there. So when I was 16, I volunteered in the hospital in France, in Lourdes. And I got a taste for it. There were people there who were dying, who were living with, I won't say dying, they were living with HIV. They were living with AIDS. They were living with cancer. They were living with severe tumours or whatever it was. But every morning and evening you'd be looking after them. They had a smile on their face. And I got a taste for helping people. So when I was 22 working in local radio again, I got my own money together and I funded a trip to the slums of Calcutta in India. And, people talk about coincidences. I don't really believe in them, but I ended up bumping into a lot of Irish people and a couple of Irish nuns, and ended up being invited to Mother Teresa's home. This was before she died. I'll make a long story short. But it turns out that at the end of the day, the last interview she gave before she passed away was with this young kid from Limerick. And I was 22 years of age. And
tell us about what she was like.
It was interesting, the energy that you feel, because, since I was 7 in school, first class in Croke, the first person I ever learnt about in school was Mother Teresa, because she learned and trained to be a nun in Ireland, in Rathfarnham, as far as I remember. And, she was from what they call now, like Macedonia or something. And,
were you overawed?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was presence energy, like what I felt with Oprah. It's interesting because when you come into Mother Teresa's presence, or she comes into your presence and gives you a hug and embraces you, it's like, it's the only thing I can describe it is it's like a warm Hawaiian breeze comes over you. It's this overpowering energy.
Yeah.
And she was tiny. I mean, absolutely tiny on me, but she had this huge presence. And it was interesting the correlation between Oprah this week and Mother Teresa, because literally, and I mean this respectfully and in the right way.
Yeah, you wouldn't compare the two, would you?
No, well, no, but the similarities in the energy, because literally, and I mean this in the right way, but Mother Teresa would like click her fingers and a whole city would come to to its knees to help her. Like Calcutta is hugely overpopulated. Back in 1997 when I was there was a population of 20 million people. I have no idea what it is now. But literally anything she needed to help other people would run to help her.
What did she say to you in that last interview?
I remember the one thing she focused on completely, which really stays with me. She said, no matter what someone has done, no matter what horrible thing or deed they may have happened, or what, horrible, like if someone had killed someone or something, she said, you have the ability to be forgiven, you have the ability to forgive yourself, you have the ability to heal. And what she said was, no matter what, every person deserves a second chance. So the main message was that everyone, no matter what they've done, deserved a second chance.
Now, you're listening to Newstalk Breakfast. The time is 17 minutes past 9. Mary O'Riordan, Irish businesswoman and philanthropist, is our guest this morning. There's two things I want to talk to you about. Ideal Business Intelligence, your consultancy business,
sure,
and, of course, your charity, Planeteers Philanthropy. Let's start with your business. How does it work? What does it say on the tin, and what does it do?
Okay, well, I set up in 2009 in the middle of the recession here in Ireland, and talk about stepping into the fear. I'll tell you, Ivan, it was, and it still is, but it was exceptionally tough then, and I was fearful, so I started actually looking abroad. So when I started reinventing and tweaking the consultancy as I went forward, so I was doing, some business in Ireland, and then I found I was getting more clients in the likes of Northern Ireland, Scotland, the UK, and then it started spreading around Europe, and then I went to America.
And what specific type of advice do you provide?
I started off with communications training. People, I used to deal with people who had maybe severe stutters, or people who were terrified of speaking in public, or people who wanted to have more confidence when it came to being interviewed for your job, or people who may have a newspaper interview or something and they would just freeze and panic and not know what to say. And it developed and developed, and the more business strategies and the more savvy and the more people I invested in myself to train on business, the more I tweaked it into business consulting now. So I guess the focus has changed over the years, but fundamentally for me, it's to help people to have a better life through their business, to be able to help their families and do what they really love in life, because I really feel we're all on purpose. There's something greater than ourselves, and that's why I love giving back, and that's why I fund my own stuff.
But you worked with Fortune 500 companies, yes, like Johnson & Johnson. I mean,
yes,
they're not into this lovey, touchy-feely stuff. I mean, they're into hard-assed business.
At the end of the day, they're focused on profits. This is absolutely correct.
So what do you do for them?
Well, basically what I implement is a 105-step program, and through this they're able to generationally affect people, because if Mammy and Daddy are happy with the project, then why would the children go anywhere else? So they're very focused, when I work with Fortune 500 companies, of the generational effect. I mean, I'm just about to be hired now by the biggest mobile phone company in the Middle East, and they're very, very focused on, oh, Marie, we've heard about this generational effect you're doing, and they want to exactly the same. It's if Mom and Dad and the kids are happy with this, then why would their children go to another company if they're being treated so well? So the systems I implement is to really look after people so well, and on the customer care and the customer service point of view, very, very focused on those communication points.
But if I like a Johnson & Johnson cotton bud, what do you do that makes a bunch of difference?
Well, I guess, through the systems that I have, it's not just the branding that I'm interested in. I'm very, and I do, and I've, some people call it snake oil or whatever. I call it a bit of the woo-woo factor. But, I believe in a holistic approach in business. If their staff and their management feel good and they're, empowered to get their work done actually in time, and they don't have to be bringing work home, then their family life is going to be better. When you encourage a system and have an ability in your business that even your children are welcome to come into the workplace.
So is it a social context to the workplace? Is that what you do?
I believe it can be. I'm very family orientated when it comes to the businesses. Before, some of the especially in the States, a lot of the businesses I would work with, they would have a no children policy. It would not be a place where your children as an employee or management were welcome. But then, on the other side, they might have the annual family picnic, but that was it. Whereas what they started noticing was when their children, when they peopleified the building, even putting, even small things, like even putting a little step on the sink or little potties in the bathrooms, when the people were able to bring in their children where they felt welcome as a family. They said for morale, they were able to track this, and also changing their language patterns. When they changed specific wording in how they dealt with customers, they were able to track an increase in business.
And is most of your work in the States?
The majority of my work would be in America. I do a lot now in the Middle East, focused on Africa, Australia, etc.
Of course, then the other separate wing is Planeteer's philanthropy.
Correct.
Tell us about that.
Okay, as I said to you there, I guess the Mother Teresa experience inspired me to give back. What I used to do beforehand was volunteer a lot. I'd volunteer with an organisation, the likes of Charities in Africa and stuff. And I'd go over, did stuff in Sub-Saharan Africa, and I've been educating children in Africa out of my own pocket since 2006.
And would this be as a field officer with other charities or on your own?
Before it used to be as a person on the ground with an NGO, with a non-governmental organisation. In recent years, I set up my own wing, and I'm not fundraising or collecting money. I've actually started pumping a percentage of my own cash into this, so I've been able to educate more children in the likes of Africa. So I formalised it with Marie O'Riordan Planeteer's philanthropy, and I went live as well with a recycled iPhones project, because what I discovered in school for me, Ivan, was, hands up, I didn't do well. I'm very auditory and visual, so I'm the chatterbox who needed to talk in class, and you can't talk in class traditionally. So what I found with an iPhone is whether you're auditory, you need to hear it, you can hear out of the iPhone. Whether you're visual, you can see it on the iPhone. If you're kinesthetic, which means you're touchy-feely like I am as well, you can hold the phone. And if you're practical, you need to be touching the buttons, you can have that ability as well. So I went to some of the best educationalists in the world, and one of them is actually one of the most prominent educationalists in the world is actually based in Dublin, in Ireland. And, I've done a lot of work with them to tweak the educational side of the iPhones. And it was interesting because I was working in the Middle East last year, and I was invited to the Middle East Internet Awards in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates on the 9th of December last year. And I felt honoured to be there. And while the gala, the awards dinner was on, they presented me with the 2011 honorary award, and that was for the iPhones project. So I was delighted with that, and it got a lot.
Congratulations!
Thank you. It was a lot of exposure over there, but I guess it's where it's leading to, because there were some people in the Middle East who are very influential. One of them, he used to own MySpace, and they another one is best friends with Donald Trump. They want me to fly over to Kuwait and to meet some people in these spheres so we can get it out to more countries.
Okay, yeah, the voice you listen to is that of Marie O'Riordan, Irish businesswoman and a philanthropist. We have to ask you about the Oprah Winfrey show. What was it like? How did you end up there?
Oh gosh, okay. So after the 25 years with the traditional Oprah Winfrey show, I was thinking to myself, what's she going to do next? So I started following her online. And the next thing, she did a series called Oprah's Life Class on the OWN network through Harpo Studios in Chicago. And there was 25 episodes of this, and I watched it really intently. And episode 16 was an episode on intuition in your gut and just knowing good things were going to happen no matter what. And it really resonated with me. And I bounced. I sent some feedback to the show. And within 2 days, they came back to me and they wanted to know more information, because, I put in maybe a couple of bullet points. I said, this has been influential in my life since I was a kid. And they started asking more information. And then they kept coming back to me, and there was more phone calls and more emails and a lot more phone calls. And then they actually did an interview with me earlier on in March. So the bottom line was, I guess what caught their attention was a couple of things. The Mother Teresa experience. And there's something to this day I can't explain. When I was there, as I said, with Mother Teresa, there was a date while I was there with her. A date flashed into my head. And it was interesting. It was the 5th. For some reason, while I was sitting with her, the 5th of September popped into my head. And I didn't know why. So when I came home, the documentary I made on the Street Kids aired the morning of September 5th. And she died later that day. And to this day, I can't explain that. So when it goes with gut or intuition, they were very interested in that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, what was Oprah like? How did you find her?
I mean, I'm not talking about her weight or whatever, her physicality, but larger than life. I mean, the first thing you notice is her physical presence, but her voice. You know, it's the voice you've been hearing on the television for decades, and it's so much more clear, and it's actually deeper, and it sounds fantastic, but it's the energy. It was interesting because, you know, when you're in your presence, there's this energy. It's almost like electricity in your hands. It's like you get a spark effect.
You obviously get that with a lot of powerful people. Likeable, personable.
I feel very natural, very nice, very funny, in fact. The same person on air as off air, which was very congruent for me, and extremely comfortable in her presence, and you really felt she's on a mission to do good for people, and I'm excited to go forward with this.
Okay, and so you did an interview for that show with her, is that right?
I was invited to St. Louis, Missouri for the live show, which broadcast between 7 and 9 local time in America on Monday of this week, and I've been asked to be part of season 2 of Oprah's Life Class, which is going to air in America on Harpo Studios and OWN, and they're focusing for the next 6 weeks on the live show, and then we're going to have to see where I end up. It'll probably be Chicago, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of texts. Hi, that woman sounds, Mary sounds totally inspiring. And Veronica texts in, I worked with Mary for many years on local radio in Kildare. Just wanted to wish her well and congratulate her, says that's from Veronica.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's how can they access Planeteer's philanthropy online, is it?
Yeah, well, if they type in my name, it'll come up under that. Or, you know, great. It was funny, Ivan, because Oprah Winfrey has 10.2 million people on her Twitter. So when we were doing the show live the other day, we were trending live, and she featured my Twitter account at Maria Reardon. I've only got 6,800 followers, but that was interesting. So if they want to connect on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or the website is idealbusinessintelligence.com.
Okay, Mary O'Riordan, who that's the person you've been listening to. We wish you well on all your endeavours in Ideal Business Intelligence and Planeteer's philanthropy, both here and across the Atlantic. Thank you for being our guest on Newstalk's Breakfast